Imagine waking up to the sound of waves crashing against your kitchen window and realizing your neighbor just kayaked past your mailbox. If you thought high tide was bad, brace yourself, because here's what life could look like if Earth turned into a giant water balloon with no land in sight. Let's dive into the video. Land loss would be immediate and catastrophic. Our beautiful blue planet is already about 70% ocean, but that remaining 30% of land. That's where we live, shop, farm, and binge-watch reality shows. Take that away, and things go downhill fast. If Earth's temperature were to spike dramatically, we'd enter a global meltdown worse than a drama queen on a hot yoga cleanse. All ice from glaciers to Antarctica's massive ice sheets would melt, raising sea levels by 70 meters, 230 feet. That's enough to drown coastal cities like New York, Tokyo, and London. Entire nations like the Maldives and the Netherlands would vanish faster than your favorite show from Netflix. Cue the mass panic and inflatable pool float sales skyrocketing. Day one would feel like apocalypse now. The first day of a total flood wouldn't just bring high water, it would bring every climate catastrophe you can imagine all at once. Think extreme heat waves, wildfires, and hurricane-level windstorms. Ice melts, oceans swell, and cities go from metro hubs to Atlantis audition tapes. Governments would scramble to evacuate people inland. Good luck with that. Most highways would be gridlocked, airports useless, and evacuation apps overloaded with server crashes and TikTokers trying to go viral. Rich countries might start building artificial islands, but they'd be unstable death traps. One false move underwater, and boom, billion-dollar puddles with no refunds. Chaos would follow, literally, on day two. By the second day, society would unravel like a poorly knit sweater in a washing machine. Supply raids would become the new norm, with fistfights over canned beans and suburban dads bartering rusty fishing rods for a half tank of gas. Think Mad Max meets water aerobics. People would flood the roads in a desperate escape attempt, only to turn highways into floating parking lots of abandoned minivans and inflatable flamingos. Power grids would start failing like a student who never studied for finals. Survivors would shiver in the dark, cold, hungry, and regretting all those YouTube survival hacks they never clicked on. GPS? Down. FaceTime? Forget it. Connecting with loved ones would be as hard as convincing your cat to take a bath, technically possible, but emotionally scaring. The water would rise fast, but desperation would rise even faster, probably with pitchforks. Underwater internet? Forget about it. So you think you'll still have Wi-Fi to post your soggy selfies and complain online? Not a chance. Wi-Fi signals are radio waves, and water, especially the salty, ocean-flavored kind, blocks them like a grumpy troll under a bridge. Your underwater Netflix binge? Permanently paused. TikTok challenges? You'll have to act them out for the fish. To stay connected, we'd need satellites, balloons, or floating data centers, basically the internet equivalent of pool noodles. Sounds fancy until you realize all your usual tech fiber optic cables, server farms, cell towers would be marinating underwater like a forgotten sub-sandwich. Hope you are fluent in Morse code, semaphore, or interpretive dance, because that's your new communication plan. Either that or invent underwater pigeons. We'll wait. Volcanoes would go bananas. What's worse than being underwater? Being underwater while the ground underneath you throws a temper tantrum. Earth is home to over 1 million underwater volcanoes, yes, that many, and a global heatwave could stir them up like soda bottles someone shook and tossed into a bonfire. If these underwater beasts all erupted at once, we'd be looking at magnitude 8 earthquakes rocking the planet like a toddler hiked up on sugar and chaos. Skyscrapers would crumble, coastlines would vanish, and mountains might start questioning their career choices. And here's the spicy twist. Many of these volcanoes are sitting on a massive stash of water trapped in the Earth's mantle. We're talking enough hidden water to put all current oceans to shame. If that gets released, We're not just talking about losing beach property, we're talking mountaintops becoming diving spots. You could scuba dive the Alps and still not hit land. On the bright side, scuba gear sales would hit an all-time high assuming anyone's around to buy them. Tsunamis would finish what flooding started. As if global earthquakes were not enough, now imagine tsunamis towering like skyscrapers smashing into already sinking continents. You can't outrun them unless you're Usain Bolt, and even then, only downhill. People in evacuation zones would face walls of water moving up to 50 km/h, 30 miles per hour. Chaos would turn into horror. Even the lucky ones on rafts or boats would be capsized or swept away. And remember that mantle water we just mentioned. Yeah, it keeps pouring in. At this point, Earth would resemble a hot tub no one asked for. Life above water becomes a luxury. Once sea levels hit 3.3 kilometers, 2 miles, say goodbye to continents they're now just distant memories on waterlogged postcards. Only the very tips of Earth's tallest mountains, like Everest, would peak above the surface like nature's stubborn snorkels. Reaching those peaks, it'd be like winning the lottery while blindfolded during a hurricane with sharks. Odds aren't great. By day 30, whatever shreds of global government were left would panic into action, trying to establish mountaintop military zones and floating fortresses, basically turning national parks into luxury bunkers. Meanwhile, regular folks would MacGyver rafts from anything that floats: bathtubs, sheds, trampolines, IKEA furniture. If it comes with 100 screws and no instructions, it might be seaworthy. And the master plan: underwater cities. Yep, picture studio apartments fused with submarines, only smaller and somehow with less legroom. No need for ocean views when the ocean is your view and your bathroom and your roommate named Kevin who keeps finding fish. Extinction would sweep the earth again. Plants don't do well underwater unless you count seaweed or that lonely fern on your bathroom shelf. Without soil-based agriculture, land-based food chains collapse. Animals drown or starve. Ecosystems vanish. This is not just bad. This is mass extinction bad on par with the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. Between flooding, starvation, and disrupted oxygen cycles, over 70% of all species would be wiped out. And don't think marine life is chill. Acidification from absorbed carbon dioxide would destroy coral reefs and shell-based species, causing chain reactions in oceanic food webs. Even whales would be like, "Not cool, bro." Civilization would fracture into floating tribes. By year 2, the surviving humans would look like characters from Waterworld, minus Kevin Costner's gills. Makeshift communities would form on barges, rafts, and repurposed cruise ships. Desalination systems would provide drinkable water but slowly. Rain collection and boiling seawater would be too inefficient to meet demand. Dehydration would wipe out more people than any shark ever could. Still, some groups would get organized. They'd establish trade networks between boats, develop alga farming techniques, and form rafts into floating cities. But where there's civilization, there's also pirates. Resource hoarding, violence, and anarchy would divide these new societies. And let's not even get started on medicine. Colds would become crises. A stubbed toe, that's an amputation now. Humanity would die, or mutate. Let's be honest, most of humanity wouldn't make it. Between malnutrition, dehydration, diseases, and being swallowed by a rogue wave, life expectancy would drop faster than your phone in the toilet. At best, a few 100,000 people would remain after a couple of generations. At worst, we're extinct. But in a tiny ray of hope, some humans might adapt. For instance, the Bajau people in Southeast Asia already have larger spleens, helping them dive deeper and stay underwater longer. The Moken children in Thailand have developed superior underwater vision. Future humans might develop lung capacity, better eye focus in water, and other marine-friendly mutations if they survive long enough. But evolution takes millennia. This is like trying to grow gills in time for next week's swim meet. If you made it this far without needing a life raft, congrats. You're officially Waterworld certified. Hit that like button to keep the waves rolling. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a deep dive into disaster. Until next time, stay curious and maybe start building that boat.